Hi everybody, I'm Brent Stafford and this is RegWatch by regulatorwatch.com. We're coming to you today live, or if you're watching this on tape, because this is a total shit show going on today here. But we've got Sherwin, Mena and Tristan Thompson joining us. And here's Tristan. How's it going, Tristan?
Good, Brent. How you been, brother? Good to see you.
Not too bad. Good to see you too. And we have Sherwin here. How's it going, Sherwin?
It's doing well, my friend. How are you?
Not too bad. And this is our little bit of a mic check. So we got the boys here. This is a really important for us to try to get a two-person interview, and my gear in the studio can't do it. And so we're trying to get the gear here in our home studio to work, and we'll be fixing it as we go. We're talking today about a rally that's coming up in Washington, D.C., and I believe it's next Saturday. Is that correct, boys?
Yes, sir.
And this is another Save the Vape rally. It's the second one now in less than a year, and vapers are set to descend on Washington, D.C. to call on President Trump to intervene and try to stop the U.S. Food and Drug Administration's industry-killing PMTA, the Premarket Tobacco Application Process. The rally is scheduled for September 5th. It's just 4 days before the PMTA deadline, and organizers hope a strong showing by advocates and grassroots vapers will pressure politicians to do the right thing and support flavored vaping products as a tool for harm reduction. So, Tristan, let's start with you first. You know, there was the big one that happened last November, which really made a difference. And now there's this one 4 days before. What's the expectations on your guys' side in terms of the people that are going to come out and what's going to be the effect?
Well, you know, it's tough right now with as far as turnout because of, with all the COVID concerns to call it. But I think we're going to be okay because, the people that missed out last time are going to show up this time. And, there's the restrictions, as you've seen, are kind of getting lighter as far as, the more populated states are concerned, like New York and New Jersey have taken DC off the list. So I think the turnout's going to be pretty good. As far as the effect goes, I think it's going to be highly effective because we are entering we're in an extremely toxic political environment where every vote counts. So, when a bunch of voters show up on your doorstep that are really pissed off that, what saved their life is going to be going away during your watch, kind of changes things a little bit, Just like last time. Think about it. We were pretty much looking death in the face. He flew over us. It was like, who are those people? And the advocates had a seat at the table that they didn't have before. So hopefully, and I believe it will, lightning strikes twice in the same place.
And Sherwin, from your position, I mean, are you anticipating there to be a lot of people?
I mean, I'm not a very big fan on doing these types of projections for a couple of reasons, but I do believe that we'll get a good reception, similar to what we had last year. I think we're going to get a mix of the same people that came plus new people that really wanted to be part of that experience from last year. So I do believe that we'll do well. I mean, remember, this is about a political perception. It's not about how many people you have. It's about who screams the loudest. And we're there to be heard. We're there to scream. We're there to make our presence felt. And we're there to tell everyone in DC that we are probably the most underutilized political party or political sect that has ever come across United States politics. I mean, the U.S. vapor contingency, we have the ability and the numbers to swing elections in certain states on a national level. We believe that there's 13 million of us, plus friends, plus families. Many of us are single issue voters. And there are some states that elections were won by only 5,000 votes. And to go ahead and underestimate this group of voters, I think is a tragic mistake. But I do believe that this administration is realizing it.
Fair enough. And then, so let me ask you this question. and see which one of you guys wants to answer it. So how close are we to losing the nicotine vaping industry in the United States?
I mean, I'll take that. I mean, I'd say we're pretty darn close. I mean, look at what's going on now with the businesses that are pretty much already folding out and just leaving. Look at Vape Wild, for example. You know, it's a massive name in the industry. Just shut their doors. So, you know, I would say, you know, that's a pretty big canary in the mine for what people are looking at and what they think is going to happen. I mean, that's just my perspective on it, because when you have a giant like that, you know, who's not only, you know, a major player in the game, but also a major co-packer, you know, they didn't just do themselves, they made for other people. It's not good. It's not good. It doesn't bode well.
And then we have what just happened in California too as well. I mean, that's disturbing.
Mm-hmm. You know, and you know, that's another thing. You know, it's just because we succeed here, it doesn't mean it's over. But if we lose on the federal level, we lose everywhere. You know, it doesn't matter what happens here or there. It's done. You know, there's no turning back. And look at what, you know, look at what history tells us. Once government gets control of something, it's a ridiculously long and hard and expensive uphill battle that never bodes well for anybody. You know, it doesn't do very well. I mean, look at the prohibition with alcohol, for example, and that let loose a whole lot of organized crime. I mean, you have the war on drugs that incarcerated a bunch of nonviolent people over silly things, and then you have, you know, basically what I think is coming, the war on firearms too. I mean, look at what's happening with that. Laws passing that make no sense, regulations that make no sense, that actually do nothing. It's not good. So the one thing we don't want to have happen is have the government come in, step in, take control, and then us have to fight for the control back. It's ludicrous.
And I've said from day one, and I think Tristan kind of reiterated it, we really are the first line of defense for freedom of choice here in the United States. This industry, if this industry does fall, God knows what other industry will fall next. So it's only a matter of time that people wake up and understand that if you really want to protect something, you've got to stand up and you got to fight for it. And we've proven that we've had the ability to do so. We're attempting to go ahead and do it again today. In 5 more days. So, if you can come to the rally. If you can't, the best thing you can do is share on social media and also tweet "We Vape, We Vote" and hashtag PMTA Reform and get that trending. Because remember, it's not just the people that are going to be at that rally. It's going to be all the people that are going to be viewing it, participating in it, and spreading the word. So if you think that you're not helping by not being at the rally, you're not. You're wrong. You can help us tremendously by trending this on Twitter.
And let me ask you guys, you know, what can attendees expect at the rally? So the speakers, you know, is there going to be networking, that kind of thing?
Oh yeah, for sure. We have a very nice lineup of speakers, and it's going to be, you know, pretty much the same thing that we did last time. You know, that's, you know, the core thing is the optics of it, that there is this really large voting block. So the more of us that turn out, the better it is. So personally, for me, it's not just, you know, what we can expect as far as, what's the word I'm looking for here? Not just turnout, but, you know, in networking and things like that. But also, you know, the way I look at it is it's like our last chance to all be together as a family. If you think about it, I mean, there's no more vape conventions, right? This is it. This is the place to be.
I mean, that is very disheartening.
But it's the truth. You know, I mean, I come with truth. I don't sugarcoat things. I find that to be something that, you know, doesn't really stress the importance of what's happening. You know, a lot of folks are trying to downplay it, that everything's going to be fine come, you know, September 9th. But nobody can guarantee that. There's a lot of speculation on it, but nobody can guarantee it. You have no idea what the FDA is going to do. I mean, look at what, you know, their handling of COVID. You know, they have something to prove if you think about it. So could they come at us hard? It's possible. You don't know. You never know. And I'm not one to leave things to chance. I don't believe in it. I think it's foolish. And that's something that I think the industry has done a lot of, you know, since its inception, is leave things to the last minute and to chance and hope that it all works out. But it doesn't.
But it doesn't. No, it's. I mean, there's been a lot of finger crossing going on over the last 5 years that we've been covering this file. That's for certain. And yeah, it's. I mean, from our end, it's just. It's astonishing that the whole industry, or at least the vast majority of it, could get wiped out on September 9th. It's arbitrary and capricious. There's no doubt. This judge that, you know, ruled in the NGO case last summer. I mean, he clearly has it in for vaping, and totally bought into the teen vaping epidemic, and everything that the body parts orgs were pushing. I want to make sure we get some of the details here. So for actually people who are going to this event, what can they expect? Like, where do you want them to meet? What about signs? Where do they go to the bathroom? All that kind of stuff, the big details.
All right, that's easy. So we're going to be on the southwest quadrant of the ellipse. We're going to be doing a lot of setup beforehand, but for everybody that's coming to the event as a consumer or business, you'll be there between the hours of 12 and 4. Last time the restrooms were at the White House Visitor Center. That is currently closed, so NPS has us going to the restrooms at the Washington Monument, which is just across Constitution Avenue. Those of you that were there last time actually probably should know where they are. That's where they actually put us in the area of when Trump was taking off on Marine One. So it's not that far of a walk, but it is a teeny bit further.
And don't go to the bathroom in the bushes, I hear.
Yeah, no, that's a bad idea. That's definitely frowned upon. I would not recommend that. NPS is not playing games.
Right. Sherwin, let me ask you. Sherwin, go ahead.
No, I was going to say we're going to have protest signs available for everyone that attends, and you can keep those signs as well. Take them with you. So it's, go ahead and we'll spread that around. But we're doing a couple of things that are going to be just a little bit different in regards to how we've approached the rally. Last year, we did not hire a PR firm. We hired a PR firm this year to go ahead and spread the word about the rally this year. Additionally, we will also have 2 mobile advertising trailers that will be driving around DC saying "We vape, we vote," compliments of Avail, and so we're going to be having those around. The speakers the format will be very similar to the last one. It'll be a little bit more relaxed because last year we were delayed an hour because President Trump went to a football game. So I don't think he's going to be leaving anytime soon. And if he does, guess what? He'll see us again, and we'll be blessed a second time. So either way, we that would be great. Either way, we are prepared. Everything is we do have a COVID response. Obviously, people are concerned about COVID. We have an EMT tent, which will have a sanitation station. We will also have 500 free KN95 masks to give away for those that have forgotten their masks or need a mask. And additionally, we will also be social distancing or asking groups to social distance throughout the entire event as we go up there and we're on the speaker system. So we also have an evacuation plan in case there's incremental weather, but I think the weather is going to be quite nice. I think we're looking at a high of 80 degrees. Mm-hmm. So I think things are looking really good for the day of the rally. So all in all, aside from the additional hiccups that 2020 has thrown at us, we're prepared. I think we're better planned. We have an excellent relationship with National Park Services and the Ellipse. And for those that don't know, the Ellipse is federal property. So there's the White House, there's the Ellipse, there's the Washington Monument. That means that law enforcement is not Washington, D.C. police, but National Park Services and Secret Service. So as far as security is concerned, you're talking about federal authority, and they do not mess around. You go ahead and you do anything on federal property, you're looking at 25 years. So I think we're good. Yeah.
And I gotta say, this is why I love Sherwin, guys. Like, I'm a pretty bright dude, but this man is like 3/4 of my brain right here. I could not do this without him. It's impossible. Like, that was all like right off the dome. He had all that. It's amazing. I don't know how he does it.
That's excellent.
I just don't know how he does. I got so much respect for you, brother.
And all of the information for everybody to know, if you haven't gone there yet, is UnitedVapersAlliance.org, and to get the information if they don't already have it. Let me ask you guys. We see here this hashtag PMTA Reform. What can you say to our viewers that may still not know what the heck this PMTA thing is? So what is the kind of reform you're asking for?
Sure, when you actually have the best verbiage, go for it, brother.
Yeah. So I want to start with a certain preface here, Brent, that this industry has always had deadlines. And we've always had a national flavor ban. We've always had extensions. We've always had something that for some reason has extended the life of this industry. So even though we have a date of September 9th looming, and which I will explain later, I do believe that that is not the end all for what's going to happen. PMTA, Premarket Tobacco Application, is something that the FDA is requiring that all manufacturers go ahead and submit. It is very vigorous, very expensive testing of e-liquid and also e-liquid brands, and also for hardware as well, which small to medium-sized manufacturers really can't afford. So for us, PMTA reform means a couple of things, but one of the main things that we really want to do, and our big ask here for UVA, is one, allow the FDA to approve what's currently in their possession. So approve it, move forward, and ask for other stuff later. That way, those who have submitted PMTA applications will still have the ability to stay in business. But the main thing that we're really asking kind of goes back even a couple of years before, and you may be aware of this, but the Supreme Court ruled recently, about 2-3 months ago, in regards to DACA. And are you familiar with that, Brent?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So that particular ruling was submitted as an executive order through the Obama administration. The Trump administration wanted to go ahead and contest it, went all the way to the Supreme Court. President Obama at the time said, you know what, I really don't have the presidential authority to issue this executive order, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyways. So went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court said, well, I guess you have the authority, Mr. President, to go ahead and do it. We're going to let this ruling stand. So it didn't work out well for the Trump administration in regards to trying to overturn that DACA ruling. But what it did do, it allowed the Trump administration to go ahead and issue more executive orders. And right after this DACA ruling, you saw a slew of presidential executive orders being issued by this administration. And what we are asking is very simple. After September 9th, because that is a court-ordered date, it cannot change. But anytime after that date, the President of the United States can issue an executive order and say we are going to take tobacco authority away from the FDA and either place it under HHS or place it in another agency in which small business has representation in the decision-making process. That is our take. That is what PMTA reform means for the United Vapers Alliance. And we believe that it is something that can be done. If you looked at the budget that was presented by the Trump administration, he wanted to go ahead and pull tobacco authority from the FDA and give it to HHS. So it's already being talked about. It was submitted in the budget that was proposed by the administration. So it's not something that is unheard of. But now, because of that DACA ruling, he now has the authority to be able to go ahead and do it. So we have an election coming up.
You're right, we do.
So we've got 13 million plus friends, plus family vapers that are a little upset about what's going on. Their freedom of choice is going to be taken away from them. Their ability to have access to products are going to be taken away from them.
And I think it's really,
Mr. President, we want to go ahead and hold you up to your word for less regulation and for standing up for small businesses, and now you have the opportunity to do so. You support us, we will support you coming this November election.
I think you made a very good point, Sherwin, and it's worth doubling down on. Many of our viewers, in comments on some of our coverage over the last several months, have been making the point about, well, why hasn't Trump jumped in and done something? But there really is it is that court ruling. As soon as the court got involved and made that ruling, the administration can't get in there. So your point is that once that court date hits and then that deadline passes, then the politics can get involved. The administration could get involved, and an executive order could happen.
Yes, sir.
That's a very good point. Let me throw this out at both of you guys, because this is, let me just get back here to my live switch. One sec, thank you. Let me throw this out at you, because when we first started covering the Trump administration with regard to vaping back in late January and February of 2017, we had some coverage, and I know that let's not get into the groups and stuff that were involved in everything else. Our point at RegWatch was that Trump had the power to come in and issue executive orders to solve the problem. And so did the industry miss an opportunity in those first couple of years of trying to, sway President Trump, or at least educate President Trump? Because clearly by the time the teen vaping epidemic hit, he was unaware of what vaping was, and very easily fell to the smear campaign that was going on. So did the industry miss an opportunity in those first couple of years of President Trump?
I would say yes and no. I mean, here's the thing. If it was a level playing field, I would say yes, absolutely. But we both know it's not. We all know it's not, right? The NGOs have more money. They have more access, and the people that are backing them have a lot of political clout. So it's really hard to be, hard on them in that particular, hard on any advocacy org in that particular aspect, because it's not a level playing field. I mean, think about it. They were screwed until that rally happened. There was no seat at the table. There was no nothing, and that's something that it went from we're doing a round table to no, you're beat almost overnight. So I don't really blame them for that. Nobody should, because it's not like any one of us could step up at that moment and do it better. Otherwise we would, right? I'm sure everybody that's criticizing everybody and their mother right now would definitely step up if they could do it better. But it didn't happen. It didn't happen. So I really don't want to hear that. But at the same time, I do have an expectation that attempts be made, and I believe that they were. So I would say yes and no. It can only go as far as the money goes. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Sherwin, but when it comes to this kind of thing, money talks and bullshit walks.
Yeah, and you're talking about 2017. The industry has matured much more than I think a lot of people give it credit for. You're talking about 3 years, but we're such a young industry, and we were just finally kind of getting it together, and then our momentum is stopped because we have this huge cliff in front of us. So I'm not going to go ahead and say it was a missed opportunity. I think everything does happen for a reason. It would have been nice for him to have heard, our point of view. But let's be honest. People may say that this Savali thing was bad, which it was, and the PR was absolutely horrible. But if it weren't for these false accusations, I don't think we would have had the type of attention thrown at us as if it was just us or the industry talking to the president. So things happen for a reason. Chaos creates opportunities, and we've had chaos thrown at us. We took advantage of it. We got heard, and our narrative was the one that was supported. How crazy is that? Do you know how much money those orgs threw at us through fake studies and press releases, and just to go ahead and throw flavored nicotine under the bus and make it seem as if that was causing all of these lung diseases when it was, adulterated black market THC cartridges, and we came up on top. So you got to give credit to the industry for doing the right thing, being at the right place at the right moment, having the right narrative. And I think the same opportunity holds true today, because right now, I don't think we would be looked at twice if the election was not this close, if people were scrambling for votes and the future of this country were at stake. So even though we are small, we are very important. We will go out there on Saturday and be very vocal. And I think anyone who does that nowadays, you're going to get looked at.
Certainly, certainly. Now, let me bring up another development that happened just last week, and this was the citizens' petition for extension of Premarket Tobacco Product Application. So this is the extension for the filing deadline, and Azim Chowdhury and Amanda Wheeler and a whole bunch of other people have been working on this, and I wanted to know what you guys think. This is a 180-day extension of the September 9th deadline. And the request is limited to certain small vapor product manufacturers to ensure that any extension only applies to businesses that have in good faith been working to complete PMTAs by the September 9th, 2020 cutoff, and otherwise taken steps to ensure that their products will not contribute to underage use. So that petition is now out there. It's filed, and actually it's in the process of consultation even with the federal government. So what do you guys think about that? Is this something that you think that's got some legs?
I mean, it could, but it's a weird thing, because then wouldn't they get slaughtered by lawsuits from everybody else saying that they're being prejudiced against? You know what I mean? I get it. I see the argument for it, but at the same time, I also see it going, not in the FDA's favor if that comes to pass. It's weird. It's one of those things that I ain't touching it. I'm not touching it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm all for any effort moving forward, trying to go ahead and help us. You throw enough stuff at the wall, something's going to stick. And I would really, really, really like to see this stick. Mm-hmm. Me personally, my personal opinion, do I think it's going to stick? I don't think that's just me. I don't think that court gives a rat's ass about us. I think the narrative, based on his opinion, has already been decided. But I could, you know what? I really, really hope that I am wrong.
And when you were saying, Tristan, that there could be an issue, I think you said prejudice or something like that. Is that because it seems it would be favoring the small vape over big vape? Is that the idea there? And that.
Well, I'm saying period. You know what I mean? Think about it. You had a vapor company and I had a vapor company, and you were told that you get to exist and I don't just because you were involved in this. I would be absolutely furious, and I would not let that stand. I'd be livid. But at the same time, I understand it. You know what I mean? Right. It's I don't know, man. It's one of those things that I'm grateful that I'm not in that situation personally. That's why I'm a consumer only.
So let me ask you guys a question here, and it's and this is in the esoteric area I always like to go eventually in our interviews. But it seems to me that when the government comes to an industry for the first time, they're pretty much like the mafia. They're thugs, and they hammer down and they hammer down and they hammer down to bring the industry in, and so they can then be the parasite that government is when they regulate. They're parasites. Mm-hmm. Now, why have they not been parasitical when it comes to vaping? Instead, they're crushing, stomping, killing, instead of bleeding and doing what they normally do. And that is, bring the industry in and take their cut. But they're not doing that this time.
Well, I think it's a twofold thing personally. I mean, you got to look at it from, the hands that are out right now. They don't need to. They don't need us. They have the cigarette industry, doing just fine. They have all those companies that they can just bilk for all those tax dollars. So they don't really need us. We're in the way. They already had an established cash cow. The sooner we go away, the better off it is for them. And with that being said, you also have to look at, like I said, the hands that are out too, because you have all those NGOs that are hammering them. You have the conflicts of interest with the CDC Foundation and the CDC itself. There's a lot of things going on that don't bode well for us on the front of you need us. We can pay tax money and we can do this, and they don't care. They care about one thing: guaranteed funds. Cigarettes are guaranteed funds. They don't care about public health. They care about one thing and one thing only: money and political power. That's it.
Yeah. And one of the biggest mistakes that this industry did, and I've always been very vocal about this, is that we did not allow ourselves to get taxed in the beginning. I always felt that this industry needed to be taxed. We needed to have that state that's that state mouth on that financial teat, so that they could go ahead and continue to look at us as being a useful industry. But many in our industry said, oh, we're less harmful than cigarettes, we should not be taxed. It doesn't work that way. That's the problem. This is politics. This is not about what you think is right. It's not about what you think is less harmful. This is about your ability to play in a field that is dominated by billions of dollars. And if you're an industry that has the ability to generate that, you're going to get noticed. And if you are not, or you're an industry that is threatening that billion-dollar industry, that's when you're going to get hammered. That's when you're going to get destroyed. If we had the financial revenue of the states being relied on this industry and had our state advocacy groups in there negotiating a fair state tax, I think you would have had a different scenario than what we have now. But that's shoulda, woulda, coulda stuff. Right. Everyone could be armchair quarterback, but I've always believed that this industry needed to be taxed fairly in order to go ahead and be in this pay-to-play market.
So you're in the early days then, that would have been the conflict between, damn it, we're saving lives, and there's, brook no compromise on that position, and, accepting tax or even thinking ahead and going, boy, if we don't give the government a taste now, they're going to come for a whole limb or a leg or a lung or the heart. Which,
I mean, if I literally was in a new up and coming industry, that would be my first major suggestion to the industry, is that they have to do that. Mm-hmm. They just have to. I mean, if you want to play,
especially
and I have no problem with it as long as it's reasonable,
right?
But if you can show that you can generate that kind of revenue, I mean, it needed to have started in California, it needed to have started in New York, it needed to start in those states that needed the revenue. If they had it taxed reasonably, you would have seen a different tune.
So just want to make sure our viewers know that whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, there, our senior producer, Cindy Schmidt, is watching the questions and stuff. And the guys here are going to take some questions. We don't normally do that on RegWatch, but we are going to do that today. And as you can see, it's a bit loosey-goosey. So here from the bunker. Yeah. So we do have a very kind of specific one, you kind of already kind of talked about it, but let's just really get a clear answer, and I'll start with Tristan and get you both, if there's a differing opinion on this. But on September 10th in the United States of America, are we going to see retail shops closed?
Yeah, it's funny because that's exactly what me and Thobai were talking about in the chat. I think it's really going to boil down to the average individual shop owner. I mean, like I said, I'm of the make me variety, because how are they going to enforce it? They barely have the manpower to keep K2 spice out of convenience stores, for crying out loud. Something that they continuously ban. But I mean, things are pretty spicy in the convenience stores over here in New Jersey. So, I mean, how are they going to do it? They're going to just try to go for the low-hanging fruit first and hope that they could scare everybody away. I mean, how would they do it? They don't have the money. They don't have the manpower. They're struggling as it is to just deal with what's happening now. And you're going to dump an entire industry on top of that? It's not going to happen. I don't foresee them closing on September 9th. I know some people are like, no, don't say that. They very well could. Keep that. No, I do facts. I don't do fear. But the reality of the matter is this: whether they close on September 9th, or they close 30 days from now, or they shut down today, if we don't do something, either way, the inevitable is going to happen. We can't keep sticking our head in the sand and going, la 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 la. It's not happening. It's happening. It's happening here in my own state. It's happening in Elliott's state. It's happening in California. It happened in Massachusetts. It's happening all over. And the belief of, if I just act like it's not a thing and hope that things are okay tomorrow, has really what's doomed us as a whole. That, and I think the other thing is that, consumers, guys, listen, you can't sit and wait for somebody else to fight this for you, because, hoping that stuff's going to be okay tomorrow does absolutely nothing for you. Hiding from the reality of we are under a very vicious and savage attack on all fronts does nothing for you. The only thing that does something for you is when you get up and vocalize and tell the government no. And when I say tell them no, say you said no, and you mean no. And if they try you, you will vote them out of office. You mean it.
Is it reasonable to expect and I hate this word divisive, we're in a civil war almost, I mean, it is a shooting war already in the United States of America, and it has been actually for some years. People forget, before the last election, there were many cops shot. There was 10 shot in just a short period of time back in 2015 and in 2016. So, I mean, the shooting war has been going on for some time, and it's just, gotten worse. So with the polarization being what it is, can any of those progressive voters, which are good people, right, that might have thought about holding their nose to vote for Trump because vaping was so important to them, could we even expect them to do that now, because after obviously COVID and the protests and the riots?
Well, I mean, it's really simple, and I mean, Sherwin, I'm real passionate about this number. 488,000 lives a year lost from smoking. That's almost 500,000. Okay, where you say, it doesn't matter where you stand on this issue or that. This is the single greatest plague on us as a species. Single most deadly, and I mean, if you look at how. If you've watched a smoker die, it's gruesome illness that plagues us as a society, and we're allowing the government to preserve it. So it doesn't really matter what your political beliefs on anything else. If you are going to sit there and tell me that you are a good person because XYZ, then you need to take a look at the larger picture here. This is 500,000 lives a year. The loss of those being preserved continuously forever by the government because they are addicted to those tax dollars generated by cigarettes. If you don't see that and go, we can deal with all this other stuff later. This has been going on for forever, and it doesn't discriminate. It doesn't care. It kills 500,000 people a year, period.
It's hard to get your head around with, we shut down the Western world for 170,000 dead on COVID in the U.S. And 480,000 die every year. So, I mean, I get the frustration there. And you would think that public health, who was in charge of the COVID response, the same public health authorities seem to have turned a complete, total, blind eye, a cold shoulder to the deaths with regard to smoking. And this is after 3 decades of hammering it home to us just how deadly smoking is.
And the reason why is blatantly obvious. It's, as the old adage goes, there is no money in the cure. The money is in the treatment. So to say that, the regulators for health, they're out there looking out for our best interest, to me, is completely insane. They're not. They're worrying about 2 things and 2 things only. Continuing the circle of logic that enables them to take that money. And the second thing is to protect their own public image. And the first one will override the second one as long as they can get away with it without too much of a threat. That's it. They don't care about nothing else. They don't care about my health, your health, the survival of us as a species. They don't care. They care about the money. And then while we're all dying, they'll run off to the bank with it and leave the country. They don't care. They care about themselves.
Cold-hearted. That's fair enough. Sherwin, let me bring this back to the event. And it's a tough question. It's a tough one. When now RegWatch is not going to be there. We'd love to be there. We just can't. We're up here in Canada. Everyone knows I just got married. Went through the whole quarantine issue. It's just it's harder to get back into Canada as a Canadian than it was for me to get down to the U.S. So it's just not at all practical. Plus, obviously, my new wife is coming up here hopefully in several weeks as we're going through all that. So it's just we can't do it. We really would like to be there. But that being said, and after I throw that out there and I clear my throat with that comment, when I first heard about this, I thought, Jesus, you're going to have, a couple thousand vapors there during COVID blowing plumes of COVID up into the air. And, any local writer at the media could, easily start to have, make hay with that. Look they don't care. Look at the COVID all blowing up in the air. It's plumes of COVID. How do you guys deal with that? How have you been thinking about that issue?
Yeah, it's a legitimate question. Regardless, I think the media is going to find a way to to bash us in some way, sense, or form, whether it's in a pandemic, or whether it's a volley, or whether it's some sort of study. So to think that we're not going to get some form of criticism, I think is naive. But one of the things that we are going to be requesting at the rally is that if you do vape, please be discreet and blow down. Don't blow up in the air. So we will be mentioning that throughout our event, in between speakers. But I mean, you do what you can, and social distance within the groups, and try to put on a face of voters that care about the well-being of their future, are there to make a change, and they will do as much as they possibly can to limit the exposure for the sake of the general public. So we'll just do what we can to go ahead and make that type of an announcement during the event. I mean, the same can be said for all the rallies that were there. Wasn't there a recent march last weekend? And they were there just jammed into DC, So this the narrative is always going to be taken out of context by those that want to take it out of context. We'll do what we can to limit it. We're not going to escape it. But I don't think that's the message that you're going to get out of that rally. The message from that rally is going to be one that is more important than above something as that, and that is we're 13 million vapers plus friends plus family members, single issue voters, and we vape and we vote. That's the message. Anything other than that message is just going to get lost, in my personal opinion.
Right. So, Tristan, let me ask you this. With some of our questions that we've got, one of them is does the FDA have the manpower? And I know we've kind of touched this to enforce the regulations. And I'm just going to add this: is that in the local areas, right? I foresee that in at least some places, you're going to have advocates. I'm talking the anti-vaping advocates. They could mobilize and protest. You just take like 10, 15 people, and with some signs saying, you're killing kids, and they're standing outside of, a vape store or something like that. They'll have local media there in a heartbeat, because local media just hates vaping for the most part.
Oh, for sure.
For sure.
But at the end of the day, it's going to boil down to, exactly that. Do they have the manpower? I'm going to say no. I don't think they do. The FDA doesn't. I don't even think the FDA wants to deal with this right now. They have their plate full with, all the COVID stuff. So I don't think that they do. I think it's going to boil down to the individual shop owner, the individual manufacturer of, how. And I don't want to, because like I said, I don't want to put anybody down who's looking at their own financial future and going, can't do it. But at the same time, it's going to be, and like I said, when I say this, I'm not putting anybody down, but how dedicated they are to the cause. Because me personally, if it was me, I'd come get me, come get me. It's all going to boil down to the person.
It's not going to. Yeah, it's not going to stop. September 9th, it's not going to stop. Everyone needs to be conducting business as usual. Keep buying from your wholesalers. Do not disrupt the flow of this economy that contributes to taxes on a state level. The FDA, as Tristan has said, is not prepared in the least to enforce any of this. They are completely overwhelmed, not only in regards to COVID, but they are completely overwhelmed in the PMTA applications altogether. Their systems have been crashing. They were expecting 45 submissions, and they're probably going to get 25,000 or more, or 250,000.
Sorry, 250,000.
I forgot what the number was. I think Salter mentioned it.
Are you talking about
but the point is that they're not prepared. Right. They have no clue as to what's coming up ahead. So shops are not going to close. They're not going to shut her down. Everything is going to be normal. Just wait it out. Let's see what happens. It's not. It's no one's going to be knocking at your door the next day telling you, "Hey, you can't sell that." You know why? Because the FDA doesn't even know what it is that they have to approve in order to say what you can or cannot sell.
So let me just say that there's a bit of a conflict in your messaging, and with all due respect, right? Is that like on one hand you're like, okay, everybody, don't do what the industry's always done and just cross their fingers and just blow through the deadline and just keep on going, which is they move from the one thing to the next to the next. But yet that still is the message that's coming up here, right? So how do you square that?
Well, because it's a big unknown. We're erring on the side of, not trying to motivate people to make decisions based on fear. Because, I mean, if you think about it, if you do that, there are going to be people coming from places where they probably shouldn't because of travel restrictions. We're not trying to do that. We're trying to go about this in a logical and reasonable way. At the end of the day, that is still the deadline. So if nothing's done, the inevitable future that's going to come to pass isn't good, because eventually they will have the money, they will have the manpower, because they can turn around and say, yeah, we don't have this. You need to give us this money. We need to hire these people. We need to make this happen. And then what do you do? They're not going to make that kind of demand public. They'll make that quietly. And then the next thing you know, the FDA is at your door. So there's no way to say that. I think what we're really trying to say is that idealistically, when the 9th comes to pass, nothing's going to happen. Is it possible that shit hits the fan, for lack of a better word? Yeah, it's absolutely possible. Is it likely? No. But why leave it to chance? Why leave something that is forever to chance? It doesn't make any sense, especially when there's that many lives at stake. It makes no sense to do that.
I think everybody needs to understand that this is one of those situations that if huge chunks of the industry get carved off, completely disrupted, and fall by the wayside, it's going to be almost impossible to bring those pieces back, at least anytime soon. That's really the issue.
Exactly.
And Sherwin's message is a strong one that says, look, if the wholesalers are still there and you're still there, keep buying. Keep buying product, keep stocking it, keep selling it. If you're a consumer, and this is the activist side here at RegWatch speaking, if you're a consumer, keep buying, keep buying product and keep doing what you normally do. And that way then people can still count on your business. They can still, bring in inventory based on, your past sales and stuff like that. So, I mean, that all makes a lot of sense, because we do know that once the supply chain gets interrupted, it's very difficult to bring that back.
Yeah, it's not going to come back. So, for the sake of the industry, everyone has to be, in my opinion, doing what they need to do as if it was a normal business day for the sake of the industry. You want to keep it strong? Because remember, we've got elections coming up. If you think something is going to be hammered down right now in any way, shape, or form, you're crazy. Everyone is like in a hands-off position on everything. The next day after the election, the whole world can change. Mm-hmm. So this industry has always been based on getting time. Time is what we have needed. Time is our friend. Time is something that we've always fought for. We're fighting for more time. So continue to go ahead, fight by being at the rally, fight by going on social media, spreading the word, fight by continuing to go ahead and buy product. And what you're doing is fighting for time, because that is what this industry needs.
And if I may add, one of the things that we've been characterizing what's happened to the vaping industry, certainly since E-Valley, was that they killed the virtues of vaping. Vaping has had these virtues. Virtue is a great word, right? Saves lives, all that kind of stuff. There was plenty of virtues of vaping. All of that virtue was, stomped on, when it came to the teen epidemic and then E-Valley. And so I think for people to use that language, I throw that out there and go, when you're talking to people, talk to them about the virtues of vaping and actually use that phrase. There's virtue involved with vaping. And I think there's virtue in the fight to save vaping too as well. And so a lot of people need to, channel that inner virtue that is there when it comes to vaping. And as you're doing that, also, head over to support.regulatorwatch.com. That is our support website where you guys can help us promote the fact-based science. Fact-based science, not just science. If we say just support science, we sound like Biden and the rest of them that don't believe in science. We believe in science, but science based on fact, not evidence either, by the way. Facts. We counter misperceptions. We destigmatize nicotine. That is critical. more work needs to be done in that area. And then, of course, hold researchers, regulators, and reporters to account. It's very simple. It's easy. You can help us with our Fall Fight 2020. We'll be back out now that, well, actually, Tristan, maybe we'll get there in a sec. I got banned again from Facebook yesterday. I'm still up, but can't upload videos, can't upload images, can't share anything, can't even host a live stream. This is being hosted off of Cindy's Facebook account right now. If you can believe it, they dinged me uploading our wedding video.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know.
What are you guys doing?
Well, I mean, our wedding video is pretty political. There's no doubt. Like, I mean, we were in, the wedding was in Wisconsin, but I don't think it was that. I just think that with all the hassles that they've given us, there's a security flag on my account, and I might have just been uploading too many videos at once. I was doing multiple uploads. But either way, so I was about to say that now that the Facebook ban that they just got, lifted 10 days ago will allow us to go back out and do our fundraiser again, because we launched a fundraiser right at the end of July, and then it'd been dead. And then I was about to start that back up again, and then here I am banned. So it could be, I don't know, another week or two or something like that. If you get a chance, go to support.regulatorwatch.com. We're still going to be here too after September 9th. We've got a ton of coverage that we can and still need to do. I think everybody needs to know this about what we do is we provide a platform for the scientists and researchers that are on-side vaping to then come out and talk. They can talk and to themselves and other researchers. It's a huge aspect of what we do. So there, if we're not able to, bring that good word of the research out there, besides everything else that we do on the vaping file, that's a real loss for the public health people that are on side. So, and then in the new year too, in the fall too, we've got a ton of Canadian coverage. And let's just not forget, I mean, the US is just going to be a shit show this fall, and we're going to cover it.
Yeah.
Okay, so
listen, you brought up a really good point in regards to, kind of calling out fake science. Even though this Avali, situation occurred within our industry, I think the state of the environment in regards to trusting science is at such a low point right now that your recommendation of spreading the good intent of what vaping does is probably the most beneficial thing that you can do right now, because right now no one really trusts what these studies are saying. They don't trust science. Science has taken a back seat to political rhetoric. It's really it's become something that people look at and they go, I don't trust that. I don't know. You know what? But if you hear it from a trusted friend or someone who's experienced it, and someone can explain to an individual, what vaping has done to them and how there's a lot of fallacies, misconceptions, and just misdirection, that goes a long way than any study can or will do. So I think our current environment has provided us an opportunity to counter some of the stuff that has gone out there, because the general public just doesn't trust anything anymore.
And let me just say that I completely agree with that. There's an opportunity for vapers to communicate with their family and friends on this issue in a way that they've never had before, because so many people, regardless of what you think about COVID, I think there is a realization for many that there might not be the complete honesty when it comes to what public health has been saying, because certainly the message keeps changing. I'm not being political here, if public health in 2020 was unable to inform the world about whether or not masks were effective against a respiratory virus and all that back and forth, how in the hell can they say anything about vaping? I mean, it's insane.
Exactly.
I mean, it's unbelievable, and it's insanity that public health did not have a clear answer on masks. They still don't. So regardless of wherever your position is on COVID, that in and of itself, separated from the issue, looking at the fact that they don't have a clear answer at all, should say something about public health.
Yeah, exactly. And the word of a trusted friend nowadays speaks more than a report or a press release from a health agency, So let's take advantage of it.
Let me ask you guys, as we're getting close to our hour here, and we are trying to hit the hour, we'll probably go a little bit over, but either way, Janine Timmons, one of our great viewers and supporters at RegWatch, has posted a question. I don't understand the idea behind limiting smaller bottle sizes. It's like going to a pub and drinking your favorite beer in a shot glass. Tristan?
Isn't that? But that's a UK issue.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a
We were
UK
talking
issue.
about the TPD.
They're
And I
talking
said,
about
what
the
the
TPD.
hell does limiting that bottle size actually accomplish? And it's like going to a bar drinking your beer through a shot glass. So, yeah, it's a great analogy.
Yeah.
It's a perfect analogy.
But it's not a US analogy.
I think their logic over in Europe was that if a child were to consume an entire bottle, you limit the size so that it wouldn't cause potential harm. I think that's the logic behind the size of the bottle, at least over there. You get like what were they like 5 ml bottles, and you get like a pack of 6.
Yeah, I think it's 10. I think it's the 10 mils.
Yeah.
Well,
so
in British Columbia right now, we still got that hanging over our head here in our province, is the 10 mil. It's looking like that's changing to 30, and the Canadian Vaping Association is fighting to try to get that up to 60. But, all of this stuff is just so ridiculous. Just here, tax us and leave us alone is the idea here.
Pretty much. Don't tell us how to go ahead and parent. You can't regulate stupid, and people are trying to regulate stupid.
Oh, that's so funny. You can't regulate stupid. God only knows.
You can try.
You can try.
You just can't.
Well, all right then. Okay, so then let's end then on last words then on this coming up Saturday. We'll start with Tristan, then end with you, Sherwin. So, Tristan, what's your message to everybody out there who may be coming and who can't make it? What they can do to help? And that's pretty much the question to both of you. Starting with you, Tristan.
So, if you can't make it, the most important thing you can do is be prepared to mobilize on the call to action that's going to launch the day of. It all depends on whether the White House phone lines are cooperating, because I know we tried to do phone meltdown Monday, and it turns out that the phones were still closed. There's a few ways we can do it, and we're going to figure out exactly what that is the moment up, because they could, for all we know, flip the phones on and we're good to go. So there's going to be a CTA, and you guys got to be ready to mobilize on that. And if you are planning to come to the Ellipse, please view the do's and don'ts section that we have up on the website. It is highly imperative that you do, because there is quite a few different things this time than last time. But I think that kind of actually goes without saying. I mean, we are in a different world than we were last time. So we really look forward to seeing everybody there, and we hope that we have a really good turnout.
Awesome. And Sherwin?
It really boils down to this being probably one of the most important fights for the vaping industry. If you can make it to the rally, go ahead and make it. We would love to have you. If you can't, do what you can to go ahead and spread it on social media. But just understand that what we're talking about here is political perception and the ability to go ahead and influence an election. And we have that ability, and no matter how much money non-governmental organizations, health orgs try to go ahead and throw money to go ahead and get rid of this industry, the one thing they do not have are voters. They do not have that. That is where our power lies. That is where we are going to take advantage of that and spread the word as if it were gospel all over the place. And that is the hashtag that we need to use come Saturday, and everything that you do, if you have a Twitter account, is just do "We Vape, We Vote." That's it. That's the hashtag, because the more that trends, the more it will scare the hell out of Washington, D.C. Everyone here has the ability to go ahead and do that, even sitting at home. You don't know how important that is. By going ahead and making a stand and making our voices heard, even on social media, it makes a world of difference. And we have the power to be able to go ahead and defeat everything that has come our way, because we have that ability. And it's not money, it's us.
Well,
that's why we're doing this. So everyone, please go ahead, follow us, make sure that you have the ability to either stream it or just do something. But on that Saturday, hashtag "We Vape, We Vote."
Excellent. Well, you guys, good luck this coming weekend. Wish we were there, but of course we're promoting it and we fully support it. So good luck and God bless.
Thanks, Brent. You
Thank
too.
you.